Why do relationships keep failing, even when you think you're doing everything right? I'm about to reveal the 3 hidden reasons relationships feel impossible, and I promise you, the third one will completely change how you see every connection in your life. But first, let me tell you why most relationship advice actually makes things worse. You've probably heard it all before. Communicate better, be more vulnerable, choose the right person. But here's what nobody tells you about why relationships are so hard, and why following that advice might be sabotaging your chances at love without you even realizing it. There are 3 psychological traps that destroy relationships from the inside out. Each one feeds into the next, creating a cycle that keeps you stuck. Miss any of these, and everything else you try will fail. But understand all 3, and you'll finally see why your past relationships struggled and how to break the pattern forever. The first trap is what I call the protection paradox. But before I explain what that means, you need to understand something crucial about how your brain works in relationships. From the moment you're born, your brain has one primary job: keep you safe. It learns patterns. It creates rules. It builds walls around anything that once caused pain. And here's the problem. By the time you're ready for a serious relationship, you've already spent years teaching your brain that emotional safety means staying hidden. Think about your childhood. You learned to hide your needs when they were inconvenient. You learned to perform instead of being authentic. You learned that vulnerability equals danger, that asking for help means weakness, that disagreement means rejection. Your brain catalogued every emotional wound and said, never again. So you enter relationships carrying invisible armor. You've perfected the art of being acceptable, of managing other people's emotions, of avoiding conflict at all costs. But here's the protection paradox. The very strategies that kept you safe as a child are now the walls keeping love out. You want intimacy, but intimacy requires the one thing your brain refuses to do: let your guard down. You crave connection, but connection demands you show the parts of yourself you've spent years learning to hide. This creates an impossible situation. You're simultaneously reaching for love and pushing it away, but that's just the first trap. The second one is even more destructive, and it's probably happening in your relationship right now. I call it the comfort confusion. And it's based on a lie we've all been told about what love should feel like. We think if someone truly loved us, being with them would feel easy, natural, effortless. We expect love to be comfortable. But real love isn't comfortable. It's transformative. And transformation is inherently uncomfortable. When your partner gets triggered, it triggers you. When they're going through something difficult, it activates your own unresolved pain. When they need space, your abandonment wounds surface. When they need closeness, your engulfment fears activate. And instead of recognizing this as the relationship doing exactly what it's supposed to do, we panic. We think this feels hard, so something must be wrong. We think, if this person really knew me, they wouldn't choose me. So we start hiding again. We perform. We try to be the version of ourselves we think they want, instead of who we actually are. Here's what's really happening. Your relationship is holding up a mirror to every unhealed part of yourself and saying, here, let's work on this together. But we interpret this as evidence that we're incompatible, when it's actually evidence that we're growing. The comfort confusion makes us run from the very relationships that could heal us, searching for something that feels easier, not realizing that easy often means surface level. We mistake chemistry for compatibility and avoid the deep work that creates lasting love. But even if you understand the protection paradox and the comfort confusion, there's still a third trap that will destroy your relationship. And this one is the most dangerous because it feels like you're doing the right thing. It's called the fix me fantasy, and it's probably the reason your last relationship ended. Here's how it works. You meet someone who makes you feel amazing about yourself. They see your potential. They love your strengths. They make you feel worthy and valuable and chosen. And unconsciously, you hand them a job they never applied for. Make me feel good about myself. You start needing their validation to feel okay. You start monitoring their mood to gauge your own worth. When they're happy, you're happy. When they're distant, you assume it's about you. You turn them into your emotional thermostat, responsible for regulating feelings you never learned to manage yourself. But here's the trap. The more you need them to fix your inner world, the more pressure you put on the relationship. They start feeling responsible for emotions that aren't theirs to carry. They begin walking on eggshells, afraid that their bad day will send you spiraling. The very love you're seeking starts feeling suffocating to them. Meanwhile, you're getting more anxious, not less. Because deep down, you know that if your sense of self depends on another person, you're never truly safe. What if they leave? What if they change their mind? What if they stop choosing you? The fix me fantasy creates a relationship where both people are performing instead of being. You're performing emotional stability to keep them from leaving. They're performing happiness to keep you from spiraling, and neither of you gets to be real. Now here's why understanding these 3 traps changes everything, but you have to stick with me because this next part is crucial. Most people think the solution is finding the right person. They think, if I just meet someone who doesn't trigger my protection patterns, someone who makes love feel comfortable, someone who doesn't activate my need for validation, then I'll finally have a healthy relationship. But that's not how it works. Because the right person isn't someone who avoids your triggers. The right person is someone who's willing to work through them with you. The right person isn't someone who makes everything easy. The right person is someone who makes the hard work worth it. And you can't receive that kind of love until you understand what's really happening inside these 3 traps. So how do you break free? This is where it gets interesting, because the solution isn't what you'd expect. First, you have to stop trying to avoid the protection paradox and start working with it. Instead of seeing your defensive patterns as problems to solve, start seeing them as information. When you notice yourself shutting down, getting defensive, or pulling away, get curious. What is this protecting me from? What old wound is this pattern trying to prevent? Your walls aren't the enemy. They're outdated security systems that once kept you safe. Thank them for their service, then gently let them know you don't need that level of protection anymore. Second, embrace the discomfort that comes with real intimacy. Stop expecting love to feel comfortable and start expecting it to feel transformative. When conflict arises, instead of seeing it as evidence that something's wrong, start seeing it as an opportunity for deeper connection. Learn to say, I'm feeling triggered right now, and I think it's about something old, not something you did. Can we work through this together? Learn to repair when you mess up. Learn that apologies aren't about making yourself feel better, they're about acknowledging impact and committing to change. But here's the most important part, and if you miss this, everything else won't matter. You have to take responsibility for your own emotional well-being. You cannot give what you don't have. If you don't know how to comfort yourself when you're in pain, you'll expect your partner to fix everything. If you can't sit with your own difficult emotions, you'll struggle to hold space for theirs. The fix me fantasy dies when you become someone who doesn't need fixing. Not because you're perfect, but because you're committed to your own growth. Because you can regulate your own emotions. Because your sense of worth comes from within, not from how someone else treats you. This is the secret that changes everything. Healthy relationships aren't about finding someone who completes you. They're about 2 complete people choosing to grow together. When you stop trying to get your needs met through another person and start meeting them yourself, something magical happens. You stop being needy and start being generous. You stop performing and start being authentic. You stop trying to control their feelings and start taking responsibility for your own. And paradoxically, this is when love becomes possible. Because now you're not looking for someone to save you. You're looking for someone to share your life with. You're not bringing your brokenness hoping they'll fix it. You're bringing your wholeness and inviting them to do the same. Relationships are hard because they're asking you to do something extraordinary. They're asking you to believe that you are worthy of love exactly as you are, with all your flaws and fears and beautiful imperfections. They're asking you to trust someone with the most tender parts of yourself. But when you understand these 3 traps and commit to the work of breaking free from them, you discover that the difficulty isn't a bug in the system. It's a feature. It's the very thing that transforms you into someone capable of the love you've always wanted. You deserve that love, and now you know exactly how to create it.